G'day YouTubers. Well, I've had a video request to make a video about sharpening chainsaw chains, and I thought I might as well do a video on all the different methods that I know of. There's probably some more out there, but you know. Yeah. So first of all, I'll introduce you to three methods. The number one is with a little handheld grinder like this that has a little diamond edged cutting sort of tip on it. Now these you need, I don't have it, but you need some special, it's like a stick of greasy graphite type stuff that you have to rub over the cutting tool to stop it from binding up and ruining the metal. But basically what this one does is, once you turn it on, is it, when that's turning, obviously it grinds away at the chain tooth. It has a on this guide bit here you can probably see two lines. I never use this thing, by the way, anymore. It has two lines there that show you the angles to cut at, so you have to keep that angle there parallel with the bar, so it's running a straight line with the bar. You probably can't see it, so I'll mark it just to make it clearer. Hang on, sorry, I'll just do this. It's a bit of an awful line, but anyway, it'll do the job. Now you see that has to be kept parallel with the bar as you're sharpening. So that's one way, that's with this sort of tool. You sharpen just until you really take the burr off the edge. You don't want to take too much off, and make sure you don't cut into your rakers. Well, not your rakers, sorry, your the chain itself, so the pieces of the chain, which this one's been cut into a little bit, not severely. So the other parts of the chain, you only want to cut into this tooth part, you don't want to cut into the bed of the chain. And also you have to make sure your rakers, which, looking at the chain, is this bit here that sticks up, make sure they're lower than the top of the cutting surface here. So if I come in, you can see this one here needs to be lower, the tip of that, than this here. So it's the same principle with the hand file. Now I don't have a hand file with a proper guide on it, but the files, they are a special file. They're special sizes, like I think steel size is 3/16 from memory. Anyway, that sits in there and you get it in there. That'll have the same sort of guide as that on it. Generally they have a piece of pressed steel sheet that sits along it, and you put in there and you just file back and forth. Make sure that you're holding it vertical with the chain, that you're not on a downward angle or an upward angle. Make sure you're always going vertical, and then you just file away until you take the burr off and you can feel its pitch. So what happens is this wheel here spins. It's just like a little grinding wheel with a proper edge on it, and you set your chain in the bed here, so it's like the bar of a chainsaw, and you set up all these gauges so that you can, there's this one here which pushes the tooth of the chain back and forth. There's this one here which varies the cutting depth so that you don't cut into the bed of the chain, as I was saying before, and all that sort of stuff. And there's the angle down there which you can set the angle that you're cutting at. Now this is set at 32 degrees because that's what I always cut at. So yeah, I'll show you one of these. Okay, so I've got my chain set up in here. I've got this clamp to the bench, as you can see there. Now the first thing you do is get a permanent marker and mark the tooth that you're starting on. You don't have to do it, but I'd highly recommend it if you want to actually see easily what you're doing. So I'll just mark that. So I'll put the lid back on, because if I don't do it now I'll forget. Now what you need to do first is pull the chain back into this piece here. This see this bit here is what guides the chain along. So you push it back up against this guide, and you have to start, when you're sharpening, you have to go to two sides. So there's one that you have to sharpen with the disc coming on this side, then you undo this here, there's a clamp under here, you rotate it, then you can do the ones that face this way. So we'll start off on this side, seeing as I've marked the tooth on that side. So I've got that set on 32 degrees, which is, oh shit, it's only rough. That's just what I always sharpen mine at. You follow the recommendations of your manufacturer, because all sorts are different. I just find this works very well for my chains. There we go, and it's hard to do with one hand. So now what we'll do is we'll bring the sharpener down until it's just making contact with the chain, and you wind this in or out to set the depth you want to go to. So I've now got that so it's just making light contact, and then what you do is you set this height here for your height of your actual cut, so that you're not cutting too far into the chain. So we'll wind that back a bit until I'm happy with where it sits, which there looks good because we're not going to cut into the actual chain itself. So we'll tighten it up, chain, turn her on. So that's one done. So now we'll loosen it off, move to the next one. You have to skip 2 links each time you do it because of the alternating links, so one faces this way, one faces that way. So I'll do that the whole chain around. Okay, so that took all of 5 minutes. So now what we'll do is we'll get a small file, nothing too harsh. I wouldn't use a bastard file like that one. I'd use a first cut file or fine file, whatever you want to call it. So we'll do that up, and what you want to do is you just want to, following the angle of the raker itself, which is a pointy bit if you haven't picked it up by now, you want to file the top off. So you just want to file them so that they're under the height of the link of the cutting edge of the chain, so the top of the chain. So I'll do that the whole way around. We'll see where we're looking. Another option for your rakers is if you've got a bench grinder with a fine grinding wheel, you can do them on them, but be very careful not to take off too much. Okay, I hope you can hear me over the compressor next door, which I'm sure you probably can. But I've just sharpened this chain and ground the bar, as I said, and ground the rakers down on the bench grinder. Now be very careful obviously with the bench grinder that you don't grind the whole chain away. But this chain's almost due for replacement because the links are pretty worn now. They've been sharpened too many times. So here's the bar itself. That's just D-bird. Yeah, it has got a, I think it's a, what is it? It's a carbide insert at the end of the tip, by the look of it. Yeah, so that's for, obviously for strength. A lot of decent tips have a, bars have a carbide insert the whole way up. So anyway, yeah, alright. Well, that's basically the basics of sharpening chains. So if you buy yourself a cheap file, make sure it's the right size. Most steel is 3/16, and make sure you get your angle right. Make sure when you're sharpening, you sharpen at a horizontal angle, and the best place to sharpen the chain is still in the bar itself. So what I'll do is I'll put this back together, back in the chainsaw. I'll clean out the chainsaw a bit. I'll just get the compressor and blow all that crap out and blow it out of the chainsaw itself, and then we'll put it back together. I'll show you how to tension a bar, tension the bar and chain properly, and make sure it's running right. So anyway, the one thing to note is if you note the position you take your bar out in. So I took it out in this position, so when I put it back in, I'll turn it upside down so that the chain is running the opposite way. So if your chain was running this down this way one time, turn it over so now it's running up this way. So anyway, I'll do that. And when you're putting your chainsaw, your chain back in, make sure that the teeth run back to the saw, so that when it's cutting, it's pulling back towards the saw, so that the raker side is going first, not this side here, because it won't cut much if the blunt side's going back to the saw. So anyway, I'll do that now.